afternoon, everyone. It's lovely to have you here joining us today. I'm Deborah Hughes, and I'll be your host along with the head of DAS International, Annaberta Jayanth. So thank you for attending today's webinar, where our specialist teacher, Veena, will be sharing on the topic, a very important topic, of the importance of executive functioning skills in navigating the learning journey of a child with specific learning differences. So let's get started. I'd like to introduce our presenter today, Veena Jayanth. She's a Senior Specialist Teacher at DAS International and has qualifications in English Literature and Special Education. Her personal mission is as a specialist educator is to support each child individually, as they all have unique learning styles and they have a different pace of learning, and their learning styles are important when she teaches them. She has a wide and rich experience working with students from many different countries and international schools, as well as mainstream schools here in Singapore. And so I'm very excited to hear what Veena has to say today. Also joining us today is Annaberta Jayanth. She's the head of DAS International, and Anna has a wealth of experience in providing support for students with learning differences. And as the head of DAS International, she aims to provide a professional service to the specific learning differences community, the SpLD community, both in Singapore and the region. Anna, over to you.
Yes. Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Good to see you. I think Veena needs to turn on her
camera and her microphone.
Yes.
Are you there, Veena?
There she is.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, Veena. Hello, everyone. A warm welcome to all of you, so many of you today. Thank you so much for taking this time during your lunch break to join us. So a warm welcome to learning support, counselors, teachers, parents, everyone, even our own staff are joining us today. I'm a host along with Deborah. I'm head of DAS International. And we really have a very nice topic today, very interesting and an important and a very current topic. I think a lot of people are interested in this topic. So along with Miss Veena, I thought, what a better way to start the year. We do the Spotlight series a couple of times in the year. Then to hear from Miss Veena, who will share on the topic, the importance of executive functioning skills in a child with SpLD. All right, so when someone struggles, remembering, planning, focusing, paying attention, and doing a lot of multiple tasks, I think even as adults, we also have these challenges. So he or she could be suffering from executive functioning deficits. So this is overwhelming under any circumstance. What more if you're a child with an SpLD? So we want to ask Veena to share whether this is manageable and are there strategies to help from what you've read and what you've been through, and practically from a practical point of view. So and does it affect adults? Yeah, so over to you, Veena. Let me just share my screen.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, DAS, for giving me this opportunity to share with you my views and my observations about importance of executive functioning in everybody's lives, and also how to kind of manage it, or how to manage the deficits in our lives as well as the life of a child with SpLD. So it is one of the current topics. If you have noticed, it's been discussed widely. Even here in Singapore, we've seen a few articles appear in the paper about how important that is and how important it is for a child to understand a self's potential and how to kind of use it independently in a child's journey, managing every little task, not only education, but everything that goes on along with it. We've also seen papers being published by our own colleagues Serena and Roslyn in the Asia Pacific Journal of Developmental Differences about executive functions, the importance of it in university going children or senior secondary school, how to manage it, or, like how to develop it and how to manage the deficits. So being such a current topic and being something that is not quite quantifiable, I think one's experiences and one's perspectives or one's experience right in the classroom will be the ones that hold more light towards how to take this forward with these children. So right on with the slides, Anna, if you could. Thank you. Yeah, looks familiar. This is me. This could be me every day in the morning when I wake up or roll out of bed, wondering what I have to do that particular day, having no clue about how I'm going to navigate the entire day with so many things on my list. And how am I going to reach this very calm and poised looking person on the right? Do I make a timetable? Do I make a list of things that I have to do? Or do I just stop by making the list? Or do I move on ahead to kind of break them down into doable tasks for me and accomplish them and keep ticking them off? And, by the end of the day, almost look the same as how I look on the right. And, be calm, composed. What do I use? Do I use my planning skills? Do I use my flexibility? What do I use to navigate this day to become the one on the right? I use all my executive skills. What are these executive skills? Next slide, Anna, please. Yeah, so what do I use? I use my planning techniques, my ease of planning, my remembering information, focusing and paying attention, which is the most important thing, impulse control, where I don't stop halfway and jump into something else, multitasking, flexibility, to name a few. These are the ones that I probably would use and probably every one of you would be using to navigate a day. To name a few, these are the ones that constitute broadly what executive functioning skills are in a person. Next slide. Yeah, it's all about setting a goal. It's all about breaking your tasks as small goals. It's about planning that goal, planning the execution of the goal, being focused on that goal, having all the attention on it, and avoiding any kind of impulsivity to kind of break doing that work or jump from one task to the other before completion, or working effectively, trying to remember information, like when you make your lists, that's what you do, trying to remember what you have to do that particular day, which one is important, which one could be delegated towards the end of the day, being consistent in putting the effort, and being flexible. That is the most important thing. When one kind of a plan is not working, you use something else to kind of go through the same thing. For example, in the morning, you get ready, go down, your car doesn't start. So what is your next thing? Call a Grab guy. The Grab guy is 20 minutes away. Okay, call Comfort Degru. Again, this guy is about 15 minutes away. Choose which one is a better option for you. Or is there a public transport that you can take which might get you to your destination fast? Something to put. This is some kind of a thing that every one of us are facing every day. It can be a goal as simple as this, or it could be a goal kind of breaking down your huge project or your dissertation and presenting it to your teacher, or having not done a homework. So how do you manage this? Can you do a bit of it? Can you talk your way through? Every bit of action that you do through the day that gets you through that day is a goal. And how you execute it is the executive functioning skills. The word execute there itself talks about what these skills are, how you get through a day using all the capacities that you have within yourself. Next, Anna, please. Thank you. Simply put, executive functioning, or EF, is the brain's capacity to help self-managing every task effectively. The word self-managing is the key here. We might get help from umpteen sources around us, but how do we use that help to move forward is the one that is the most important thing. The end goal should be to be independent, to be able to independently make our own goals and work towards these goals and go from goal setting to goal getting independently. That is what executive functioning actually means. Next slide. Yeah. It is believed that executive functioning characteristics are managed by the prefrontal cortex of the brain. And it is also a fact that human brains are not fully developed when a person is born. And then there are more chances that we could develop these. These skills might not be there in a person when a person is born, but the brain's plasticity, which the next slide will talk about, is the one that kind of helps us absorb these characteristics as we move on. These most important part of our development. The brain has an enormous capacity to absorb, learn from every day and to develop and improve. And it is very malleable in the sense that it moves the way you want it to move. You don't realize it. So, you can kind of get your brain to absorb these things the way you want it to do. So it is possible to learn, develop, and improve executive functioning skills as we move along in life. This is a very important aspect. It is something that we should capitalize on. And I think all of us do. When you're born, when you're younger, you can remember times when you've been a bit clumsy, you've been running around, you've been very impulsive. I do. My mom actually made a remark a couple of days ago. How did you, from the child you were, what happened? You're calm and collected today, which I thought was a great compliment because I've always heard that I was the naughty brat in the house, going around the house like a whirlwind, knocking things all over, clumsy and stuff like that. But from there to kind of, I think today, and I hope my colleagues will kind of vouch for it, become a very calm, collected person, planning my day through, going through my day with great success. So I think my brain has learned to develop and improve along the lines as I've grown up. Yeah, so this is how a self as a self grows, it kind of develops and adds layers of cognitive development. When I mean cognitive development, it is every aspect that we add to the self. How the self is going to work in managing oneself is all we're talking about. So the most important thing about the awareness of the self's strengths and limitations, vulnerabilities. Once a person or a child understands this, then the child can manage the strengths to mask or to get over the vulnerabilities. Then the goal setting. And goal setting should be very realistic, small goals. Then planning towards achieving those goals. Asking for help when needed is a very big thing that children have to understand. So a conducive atmosphere has to be created where a child could just walk up to you and say, listen, I can't do this. Can you help me? So that is the kind of trust that the surroundings have to provide a child. Managing relationships, the emotional control that one needs to go through a day without being frustrated, without kind of taking things personally. See, these are developments that a child makes, or any of us make, the self makes towards growing up. Think of alternative methods. Again, the flexibility to kind of always think of another way of achieving the goal in case your planned one doesn't work. So this is how a self kind of keeps growing in terms of cognitive development. In the growth of self, there are three big facilitators. I call them the threefold facilitators in self-development. The first one, of course, is the parent. The parents nurture, they care for you, they set timings and routines. And that's the first exposure a child gets to something that is orderly in life, something that has to be done in a particular way at a particular time for the most effective execution. Then it moves on to the teachers or educators who kind of formalize this structure and all the time add a bit of techniques to assimilate knowledge and skills that moves us forward in life. Then there's the society, the extended family, friends, and the ecosystem that surrounds you. And that is the one that helps in forming relationship, managing our emotions, managing emotions in the sense that the competitiveness, the competition, healthy teamwork, and that kind of stuff. So these threefold facilitators definitely help in the self-development. How do the parents, let's look a little bit more into how parents start with this kind of structure. Parents lovingly nurture and care for the child. There is a timetable. In a sense, it might not be broadly specified when the child is very young, like there is a time when the child gets up. There is a time when the child needs to kind of have a wash. And when the child is ready to brush his or her teeth, the parents teach the child how to brush teeth. So, you won't believe it. There is a YouTube video which tells you that there are 44 steps that one needs to understand for you to pick up your brush, put the toothpaste on and brush your teeth. I was astounded when I watched that video. I would have added that, but it takes a full 5 minutes. So if you're interested, you can always have a look at that video. So that is the amazing amount of structure that a child has to internalize to be able to independently hold a toothbrush and brush his or her teeth. So all this is like lovingly, nurturingly, and gently put across by the parents, I'm sure, the parents talk about, and you also probably remember a few lullabies that your parents have sung to you, or, these are the loving things that set those routines. When that song plays, it is your sleep time, and that song lingers in your memory and for you to pass on. So these are some of the things that have been gently and lovingly put across by the parents as the first step of an order in a child's life. As we move on to the next important pillar, that will be the educators and the teachers in the school. Anna, next slide, please. Yeah. At school, what happens is the teachers, once again, lovingly, and they carry this forward, but there is a bit of more formality to these instructions in the sense that there is an expectation. Of course, the parents also had an expectation, but when you were very little, those expectations might not be that rigid. They might just smile and say, okay, today the child didn't do this, but maybe tomorrow. But in a school, there is a society, a group of children there. So there is a behavior that is expected out of a child. And the teacher is the one who is responsible for establishing this kind of a structure. So the structure becomes a bit more formal. Instructions become a bit more formal. So what will the teacher do? She gives you instructions, post a schedule on the wall, and then provide visual support wherever a child thinks he can just look up and see a schedule there, or he can see steps for a math problem. Child gets very happy. He says, okay, apart from the instruction the teacher is giving, I can also look at something else, and I'm doubly sure of what I'm supposed to do next. And the teacher also lovingly creates a classroom that is most conducive for learning, where the child is very comfortable, has definite areas to put his or her things, has a reading corner, something like that, which makes learning very, very enjoyable. And the home's connection is carried on to the school, where the child feels very comfortable at home with the parents, the same kind of security a child feels at school also. Then we move on to the peers, the friends, the extended family. What do they do? What is the value add that a child gets from interaction with friends? They help in building teamwork. So you play, the child plays with his friends during break time. That is teamwork. A child kind of does not like something that is happening. He has to control his or her emotion to be a part of the group that he or she is playing with. The child has to control impulsively. He just can't throw things somewhere. He can't hold a ball which he's supposed to pass to a friend and throw it somewhere else. He has to share, he or she. There is supposed to be empathy. The child has to feel for his group mates. And there's also friendly competition. These are a few things the child learns actively from friends and peers in school and society around him or her. So we are talking about typically developing children will use all these three facilitators and develop a strong set of executive functioning skills. But children with neurodevelopment disorders such as ADHD, autism spectrum disorder, any other SpLD may need a different set of interventions. They might need extra support. They might need a lot more understanding of what they're going through. And they might want a person to get into their shoes to understand what is happening, and then take it from there to kind of hold their hands a little bit more for them to achieve that all-important self-cognition. Experts believe that ADHD and executive functioning deficits almost work always hand in hand. And we as special educators have seen this every day almost as we work with children in ADHD. And when there is a child with ADHD, definitely there is at least a few of these deficits that we are dealing with. And like I said before, executive functioning skills is not something that can be quantifiable. I can't say for sure. None of us can say that this exactly is what this child needs. Come on, this is what the child gets. And so the problem is solved. No, it is just that we have to kind of look for certain signs, look for how to minimize these signs. And the child is calling out in distress. So we have to look for these signs to kind of support the child in whichever way possible the child is feeling comfortable. So what are some of these signs? Let's have a look. Yeah, in very young children, 3 to 5 years, they get frustrated very easily. They throw things. Tantrums are just round the corner every other minute. When you give them some instructions, they don't like to follow. And then they act out all the time. They try to ask them something and there's only screaming and screeching. You might be thinking, this is every other child that I know. Yeah, it is every other child that you know. But then as children grow up, these are the signs that all of us as parents or teachers have seen. But when this behavior goes on repeatedly, then it is time for us to raise the red flag to see what exactly is happening with this or with this child. This is very young children we are talking about. Let's move on to children in primary school, for example. What happens here? Here, the child is like absolutely having no motivation, just kind of drags himself or herself to school, misses important points in the sense that, or even misses meetings. I had children who would just go out for break time and then not appear in class. Then had to go back and look for them. And then they'll just be wandering around the school, completely forgetting, not intentional, forgetting that they have to get back to class at a particular time. You know, like totally disorganized. And you ask for some homework from this kind of a bag that is like so disorganized, one crumpled sheet would come out. And that would be the homework. So they don't know how to organize things. They're forgetful, and any kind of change. Even I have seen children who, if I just change writing the date from left to right on a particular day, that would bother the child so much. Why have you written this here? That would be an argument 5 minutes before I could settle down and go on with the next. Now, as we move on to middle school, next slide, please. Yeah, this is a group that kind of feels, has difficulty beginning a task, has difficulty making plans with peer groups. So they'd rather follow their friends, whatever they're doing, rather than make their own particular plans or try to involve people, taking up the lead. That is very difficult for them. Difficulty beginning an assignment, misses important points, focuses and gets on small things. Things that don't even matter for that particular activity the child is doing would be the most bothersome part of it. And not able to control emotions. Yes, that is one of the things that, because it's already entering teenage years here, emotional control becomes one of the most important aspects in this particular age group. As we move on to the next group, where we're talking about senior secondary students. Here, there is any huge task. Here is where the tasks get more complicated, where one has to take responsibility for one's own task. That here is where the self becomes very important, because hand holding has kind of now slowly been released finger by finger, and there's very little touch going on here. So the self has to act upon everything like motivation, task motivation, then cannot validate arguments. For example, like they would like to stay out late. And you say, why do you want to stay out late today? Give me a reason. That might not, no, just because will be the answer. Why just because? These are certain things that are signs, This, I'm not saying it's a one-off thing, but if it happens again and again, then we have to see why the child is not able to kind of tell you his or her side of the argument. Does not like to work in groups because feels the pressure. In a group, if somebody else is doing better or doing faster and quicker, that kind of negatively affects this child. Takes things very personally. Yes, that's the age where things are taken very, very personally. And sometimes impulsive, in the sense that just take your bicycle and go really very fast. Don't care about speed limits. And that kind of a recklessness also is there in this age. Then it's also there in adults. As we move on, next slide, please. In adults, what is it? It's problem setting goals, starting a task. Sometimes these people can be very socially awkward, that is saying the things that need not be said in a group setting. That again is part of impulsivity. Then there's problem with working memory, of course, forgetfulness. You don't remember what you need to do in the next, or you might have missed out something you needed to do just before starting another task. Trouble again managing emotions. You might kind of lash out at the wrong people, scream and screech. Sometimes it happens. So these are the things that are signs that are there in the adults. Now, next slide, please. Now coming to the most important aspect. Are these deficits manageable? I would say yes. And what are some of the strategies that as special educators we have used as we teach children? Let's have a look at some of them. As special educators and teachers, we are at a vantage point, in the sense that we have knowledge. We're the first ones to notice these signs, apart from the parents, of course. We know our student best, especially the student's strengths and vulnerabilities. And we also know how to manage the deficits. Knowledge of the student's vulnerabilities, of course, the best method, the most effective method. This is based on a child's likings or the child's, like for example, a child might like to draw. So how can you use this aspect to help the child overcome another part where the child does not like to write or plan something? So you can make the child draw out a plan. So those are the things that you as a special educator or a teacher have the advantage of knowing. And you also know that not all the methods work for all the children or for some families, because some strategies could be outside school, outside your classroom. So that might not help some families who might not be able to do the same at home. Let's move on to see some of them. Next slide, please. Yeah. So the most important aspect that a child with SpLD will be in setting goals. The goal has to be realistic, and it will be very nice to help the child set his or her own goal, however big or small. If the goal is kind of big, gently lead the child to make it smaller, more attainable, without telling the child that you cannot do it. And encourage intrinsic rewards to motivate, in the sense that try to talk about the experience a child will have once he finishes that task, however big or however small. It could be just writing 2 lines. It could be writing 1 word, spelling 1 word correctly. Anything is fine. External rewards if necessary. Sometimes children, very young children, usually react to this. They want stars, they want stamps, then they want 10 stamps, then they want 10 stamps to be traded for a small little toy. These things. Okay, this is just to kind of streamline goal setting, streamline intrinsic development. Once the goal is set, then help the child plan. The most important aspect, I would say, as a teacher, and I think most of my colleagues, I've also got a couple of my colleagues, Shilpa and Anu, who I'll be calling upon to share some experiences too. So I'm sure they'll also agree that chunking or breaking the task into doable bits is the most important aspect for a child. Make a timetable. Ask a child what he or she would like to do at that particular time. Always question the child, will 5 minutes be enough for you? Do you need 10 minutes? It's okay, to ask them to make a decision and then add or subtract according to what you think gently. Use a diary or a calendar to plan. Be kind, positive, use encouraging tones and give them reminders like put a post-it here, give them a pad of post-its, ask them to write on it, stick it where they can see. And then finally, building the self-confidence and developing the metacognition of the self, of himself or herself to execute this particular goal. Let's move on. Yes, there are also some physical activities as interventions. With children with ADHD, it's always important to realize that every 7 to 8 minutes or maximum 10 minutes, they have to be given a break. And it can be any kind of break. For example, you can incorporate tiny little aerobic exercises, just even flaying arms, moving, swinging, those kind of things within the classroom. And then a bit of yoga, stretching, and to have a little bit of a kind of a small sponge ball to just toss around and, catch that kind of things. And of course, organized sports, team sports, martial arts, these are all outside classroom to kind of help them regulate themselves, stick to rules, strategize, monitor own performance, be flexible, and then go within a team and enhance a sense of well-being, because something physical has been done. You know how the hormones react, right? And you feel really that as though something has been achieved. So these little things can be used outside classroom in a broader sense where the child needs that as an organized part of everyday life, and also inside the classroom in bits and pieces. Like there is something called movement control, where you just have to kind of toss your hands, put your hand up, put Simon says, and these kind of exercises can be done within the room to kind of help them move around a bit and get back to their task, refocus on the task. Then, of course, the next important thing would be mindfulness. This mindfulness helps them to just kind of focus on their breathing, relieve stress, active listening, be in the present moment, let go of everything that has been a part of their day, the chaos that has been a part of their day, and then just focus on the present moment, and then focus on the task that has been given, instructions that are being given. And, that helps them to kind of get ready for the task itself. And it also encourages the metacognition of the self that we've been talking so much about, and also encourages ones to be non-judgmental in the sense that, okay, everything else is forgotten, focuses only on yourself. So you don't talk about anybody else. That's it. And after mindfulness, we have some more strategies. Next slide, please. There are other tools like Cogmed software. This is one of the digital softwares that people seem to be using when it's like a complementary therapy for ADHD, and it helps the working memory. I believe there are about 25 sessions spread over 5 weeks, and people have said that children with severe ADHD and focus and attention problems seem to have calmed down, and they have more focus, and they're able to focus longer periods, like 15 minutes on doing a task and things like that. There's something called tools of the mind. This is more like a play therapy, like play to learn, learn to play kind of a thing, where it works. Children just kind of do cooperative learning and use role play, dramatic play, and things like that to learn. And this helps in working memory. That's what they say. These two are commercial tools. In terms of what we could do in the classroom, of course, planners, choose the right kind, the one that helps the child. You as special educators who are in touch with the child that you're working with knows what kind of a planner a child would like. Use the right one, and then let the child take responsibility of planning the activity. Then sticky notes, of course, you can put, they love sticky notes, believe me. And there are so many in the market these days that you can just keep changing them also, so that there's a lot of interest in that. And of course, occupational therapy for focus and attention. The audiovisual, I would just say that this one is one of the most, my favorite to use in every lesson, because if you choose a short video or a game that is related to the lesson that you're doing that day, it immediately kind of shifts the focus and gives the teacher also time to realign and the child to kind of focus on something else. But this should not be a video or a game that is totally removed from what the child is learning that day. It should somehow connect to what the child is learning on that particular day or doing on that particular day. And then that kind of helps. And playing games on the computer, everything should be only for 2-3 minutes if it is a classroom break that you're providing. And of course, graphic organizers, mind maps, and based on the topic, based on the child's ability, you can always use, there are so many of them available online. You can just take them out and use the relevant one to help the child plan the activity, break it down into doable bits, choose the bit that the child can work on that particular day and finish the task effectively. Next slide, please. Apart from all this, there is this meaningful support that is provided by the parents, how home atmosphere becomes very conducive. There is support, there is shared experiences like playing games, reading together, spending quality time, even watching a show on TV together. These are the things that kind of helps a child be very confident at home. And the same thing kind of carries over in the school, where the teachers encourage, develop the trust of the child and help the child in developing himself or herself. And of course, the friends and the support that they get from interpersonal relationships, emotional well-being, and the confidence by playing with friends and being with them helps in the growth of the self and making meaningful decisions to help them plan and carry out their everyday tasks. This is just a small exercise that I did during one of my lessons. This is a passage about comets. And I just wanted to share with you what were the things that I used with the children when I did this particular bit about picking up the main idea from each paragraph to summarize into 4 sentences what this whole passage was all about. So split, of course, gave the whole passage a reading. We did shared reading. Then after that, we split each paragraph into chunks. Each paragraph became one big chunk. And then from that chunk, we picked out the main sentence by highlighting. And then after that, what we did was that we put all these in the graphic organizer on the side there to say what was the main idea and what were the ideas in the various paragraphs that came up. And then as breaks, because this could not be done continuously over 40 minutes. So after we finish one paragraph, then some kind of a game or some manipulative was given. For example, the Play-Doh that could be shaped into a planet. And there was one kid who was asked to go on the board and then draw what a planet would look like, what a comet would look like, sorry. And then after we finished all the 4 paragraphs, then it was like a game for they used to just jump for every main idea in that particular paragraph. After this, a small sheet of paper was given and the child was asked to write 4 sentences about comets. And believe it or not, each paragraph's main idea came up as the sentence one after the other in order. So the task was completed without the child understanding, realizing that it was tedious, difficult, but enjoyed every bit of doing this particular act. And of course, before starting, the most important thing is like sit down, breathe for 2 minutes. That is breathe in and breathe out, breathe in and breathe out. There's one child who loves to read. So while reading, I keep asking the child, like pick up a book and just keep reading and looking at pictures. So that also becomes like one of the exercises to just calm down and relieves the tension and the tedium of doing the whole passage all in one go at a time and then losing attention and focus. Now to just share a few of my case studies. K is 8 years old, is dyslexic as well as ADHD, finds very hard to follow instructions, misses words, sometimes lines while reading. The main focus for her was to kind of get more attention and focus when she was doing work, that is, increase the time period of concentrated work. So definitely breathing, as soon as she came in, I would ask her to just put her head down and breathe. She would. Then the most important, the one that she loved doing was choose what kind of activity she would like to do during the break. It would be either solving a quick puzzle, playing with Play-Doh, there's slime, they love slime, believe me, and eating favorite snack, all of this would be slotted down happily into those break times. And then I would just make another task, keep another task also ready, and then just show two of them to her and say, choose. Always this ownership gives them a lot of pride. So she would choose one of those activities and then complete, then automatically go for her break, finish it and come back and then start working on the other. So this really worked very well with Kay, and her attention span steadily increased to from 15 minutes to 20 minutes of focused attention on every activity. At this point, I would like to ask one of my colleagues, Anupama, who practices mindfulness, helps children practice mindfulness to kind of get their focus and attention on the tasks that they're doing. If she has any strategies that she would share with me to kind of make this work. Anupama?
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, but we can't see you.
Yeah, I know. My video doesn't seem to be coming on, but anyway,
Okay.
I will share with you a few strategies. Yes, as special educators, we all come across kids who really find it challenging to sit down and learn. And how do we weave in mindfulness or breathing techniques? I have some students who will probably, if I'll say, okay, let's sit and try breathing, they will be wanting to move and fidget. So one thing which I do is I use the whiteboard. I make a huge inverted 8, okay, a lying down or the infinity sign, and I'll put arrows all around, breathe in, breathe out, and I get them to follow with their finger that whole, so they're actually moving from one end of the whiteboard to the other. I don't know why my video is not coming on, otherwise I could have actually demonstrated it. So just imagine you're moving your finger on that infinity, huge infinity, sign or the inverted 8, and breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out, and slowly they're going over and over, and and we do it. I get them to do a few rounds, and they get so engrossed in it while they're doing this, because they're getting their movement, their hands are moving, they're moving from one side to the other, they're focusing on their breathing. And at the end I'll say, oh, guess what, you did this for 2 minutes and you were not distracted, you did not move, you were continued. Great, you can focus, so use this. Oh, we can, that means we can focus for 2 minutes. Let's see how you can focus more when you're doing a task. So that is something that really works. And another one is something you had mentioned earlier, Veena, is that they sometimes come into the classroom with a lot of distractions, and you can see it on their face that they are not ready, mentally ready. So they need to unburden. So one of the things is giving them post-it notes and getting them to write down whatever they're feeling, frustration, angry, whatever words, or they might have had a tough day, and write it up. Then we crush it up into small balls. So that crushing activity is kind of releasing that anger, clenching and releasing. And then we make those little crunches out of their emotions, and then let's throw it in the basket, let's throw it in the bin, a little aiming, and kind of helping them release those emotions they're feeling, so they feel a kind of relief, and then unburden themselves and start focusing on their the day to start. So these are two things which I do use, and of course many more, but to share and to begin with, and it's really been effective. Yeah.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing that, Anupama. I had another case study with an ASD, of which I'm not going to elaborate, but I just want to invite my other colleague, Shilpa, to just speak about how she works with children with autism spectrum disorders, how she gets them to focus and have attention. Over to you, Shilpa.
Hi, Veena. Excuse me, my voice. I've lost my voice, but I'm still going to share because this is a topic very close to all our hearts, you see. Okay, so the ASD student you mentioned here, I am working with a 16-year-old girl. She does math with me. So you know how it is for the IGCSE math, like they do a lot of how we can call it's abstract math, as well as it's that construction they have to do the geometrical figures and all. So when she started with me, I noticed that there was one huge pencil case she had, and being a young girl, you know, it was of course one of those very fancy pencil cases and everything. And then as we started our work, for every single instrument, she would be fishing out, you know, that one, like she would be looking for it for like 2-3 minutes, and the frustration was very visible, because suppose we are looking for a protractor and there is like one huge treasure of geometrical instruments there, and she's just trying. So this happened for a couple of sessions, and I tried to tell her, you know, why don't we just separate it? She said, no, that's my pencil case, I love it. I said, okay, fine. So I had a word with the parents. So the mom sent another empty pencil case next time with her. I took hold of it and we segregated. So, you know, Veena, somewhere I think while during your talk, you mentioned, I was kind of taking down some points, like minimizing the clutter. That is one of the biggest strategies I have realized. It works with ASD students, or I think for all our special needs. So what we did that day, we took out all the flat instruments, you know, ruler, protractor, the triangle, the geometrical, you know, the right angle triangle, all those we put in one pouch. And then all the other 3D, which like we feel the texture, you know, all those went into another one. So when we wanted something, we would refer to that one. So I would tell her, okay, we are going to need a ruler. Okay, fine. I'm going to go to this pink one, the flat one. I called it flat one. And the other one, and she has a fantastic cynical sense of humor, actually, that girl. So it all kind of ended in a very interesting project. Although she did every session, she said, I actually didn't need to do that. I said, never mind. I needed you to do that. That's why I want to do that. That has worked wonderfully, because we saw the positive effect of that in her exam. She didn't waste her time looking for compass and pencils and all that. Okay. Then second strategy, huge handwriting. I'm sure you have come across, all of us, we come across that. They suddenly start writing very big, you know, and for a 10th grader, if she's solving an equation, finish. In 2 steps, her space is finished. And then she'll be like, you know, there is not enough space. So we started drawing a rectangle, and then I would do it parallelly next to her. I would solve it and I would show her that, see, I fitted it in it. Let's try. So slowly, I could see that there was a change. So it became more of a competition, which I let it happen. And sometimes I would write big and go beyond the lines, and she'll say, look at that, you made a mess. It worked well for me. So these, I mean, I'm just giving you these very simple common strategies which I have used with some of my ASD and ADHD students also, and seem to have worked. Thanks, Veena. Thanks for giving me the...
Thank you so much for sharing, Shilpa. Thank you all so much. Thank you, Anu, once again. I think we just have to rush through. We've almost exceeded our time. There's this other case study that is one young student from the university who needed help with doing his thesis submission. So we had to work with him right from choosing the topic, kind of solidifying the topic, to paraphrasing, to planning every day, chunking, and finally getting everything written on paper within 40 hours spread over 3 weeks, which was a huge task, and also making him feel that it was his work. At no point did I ever hijack that particular work of the student, because for him to take onus of the research that he had done and putting it all on paper meant a huge self-confidence, which he needed at that particular time. And it was a wonderful experience working with a young adult. So that's another case that I just mentioned these cases to show you the gamut of age group that we can use these techniques and help with. To finish off, as educators, next slide, please. Education is a very long journey that begins at home and goes to school and universities, and before it becomes an integral part of everyday life. So a major chunk of it happens at school, and we as educators have the honor and the responsibility of facilitating this journey, making it as smooth and as enjoyable as possible for every child. Let's continue this joyful journey together and help in making every child an independent, happy, self-confident learner. Thank you all so much for being with us today. I'm so sorry that we exceeded our time, but it's been wonderful sharing with you. Thank you so much.
That was wonderful, Veena. And we've had some
Sorry, it
questions.
exceeded the time. Sorry.
No
Nice.
problem. It's such a big topic, right?
Yeah. I think we need
and
part
so-
2, Veena.
Yeah.
Veena, Shilpa, Anu.
I think we
part
actually
2.
do, because I think the case studies are very important. It makes it makes the whole subject coalesce into what we actually do and the things that we apply. And so I think case studies for our parents and definitely for educators make a big difference, because there's many different education settings that people are here today. And I know that we work one-on-one and then in small groups with children with specific learning differences. And so it is a bit more challenging in a larger class. But before everyone leaves, I've put up a slide for you to give us some feedback. We'd love to hear your feedback. And also, if you'd like to know more about executive functioning, DAS Academy is running a course on executive function for children with special education needs. And this is a brilliant course that you need to attend. A lot of these strategies are taught on this course. So if you get a chance, it's at the end of March, you can attend this course using your Skills Future. And also there's a 70% off for the training network model. So definitely take advantage of this course if you can. And a lot of the things that they teach here are what these ladies here are actually applying in their classroom. Anyway, so that's all from me. Over to you, Anna.
Okay, so do we have any time at all to answer any questions, or maybe not?
Let's put it this way: we can keep going, and then we give people permission to go because their lunch is probably finished. They have to go back to work. This is still live streaming on our Facebook page.
I thought this might be quite an important, maybe just a question which maybe doesn't come up, and I think it is related to executive functioning, and that is, sometimes students with SpLDs, they're given extra time, right, to complete their paper. And I get, parents also asking, yesterday I was having a conversation with one of the teachers from an international school, and she was saying, oh, yes, my students are given extra time, but they really don't know what to do with the extra time.
Yeah, exactly.
Because they have ADHD.
The time is valuable, but if they don't know how to use it, it's not valuable at all.
What do they do?
It's stressful. It creates stress.
Rebecca, if you have time, you can join in. So my question is managing the extra time. I will start it by just chipping in with my own thoughts, maybe. How about pre-exam planning and doing up a mock exam? Maybe could be. Anyone else wanna throw in an idea?
It's one of the
How
things
could-
that my daughter used to do is when she was given extra time, she needed to be able to determine how that was going to be used, and so she used to do mock exams in that time and find out whether it worked for her, you know, like the revision, the reading, the writing, and then she decided how much she actually really needed for the revision. And so then she would write to this particular time, and then she'd only read, and then and then she had to do the adjustment in the exam if the reading took more time. And so she had to get into the process of understanding, of
So like a
negotiating that time.
practicing it,
Yeah, because it's just in the exam, you just
they just throw them the extra time.
Yeah,
it's very
exactly.
stressful, very stressful. Yeah, so she used to do lots of these mock exams to see whether that timing would work for her. Yeah, because some kids have just said that extra time is just too stressful, like it means that they have to do more work. and that's not what it's meant for, right? It's meant to be able to give them the space
so that they're on the same level playing field.
Yeah, but to give them the space to read at a comfortable pace, and then at the end to give them time to revise, you know, which is something that they need to do. Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
Rebecca seems to have something to say. Rebecca, hi. Thank you for
Yes,
joining us.
hi everyone. Yes,
Hi,
thank you
Rebecca.
everyone for joining us. Yes, with
Rebecca, by
regards
the
to-
way, is our one of our senior lecturers from DES Academy. Thanks for joining us too.
Okay, hi everyone. So on the topic on time management, I mean, based on my experience, my students do say that they receive this extra time, but sometimes they finish even before the actual time limit that's given to them. And that's because they are unsure how to check or what exactly they are looking for. So they just flip the pages to just see whether they have completed the assessment. But so this is where we actually come in to teach them checking strategies, self-checking strategies. So like perhaps, you know, they are making errors in certain areas. We know that these are some common errors. So we will tell them these are the top 3 areas that you need to actually go back and look out for, especially for math. These are the top 3 hits. So we tell them, okay, so always once you are done with your assessment, go back to the paper, check for these 3 areas. So at least they are more focused on what they are looking out for at the end of the assessment, and they make full use of the time that's given to them. So perhaps some students, they are not really very sure how to make use of the extra time or the true purpose of the extra time that's given to them. They tend to rush through things. So yes, these are some things that we can teach them as parents or even as educators.
Yeah, just to add into that, sometimes the extra time can also lead to impulsivity. Sometimes they like to undo what they have done well, overthinking a particular aspect and trying to overthink the same points. For example, the student that I said from university who I worked for doing the thesis, give them a little bit more time and he would always take 3 steps behind from the work that had been completed, just to kind of undo things that had already been done well. So again, a directive has to be given to tell them that they're on the right track, and then, you know, like not to kind of where they have to stop overthinking and where they have to actually just check is another aspect that they need a lot of training as they approach their exam years and use this extra time, I think.
And I think to add on to all that and to also maybe sum up what we are actually discussing, the motivation part is very important, how we motivate our learners. So we have all these fantastic strategies for teachers and parents to actually use it with our learners. But I think the most important aspect to motivate them, and they need to feel excited to use them instead of, you know, just telling them this is just a routine and you just need to follow. So I guess to tap on that, we also have a webinar coming up on 15th of Feb on growth mindset. So perhaps that would actually be a continuation of this topic as well, to motivate your learners to have that growth mindset.
Okay, that'll be interesting. Yes, thank you.
Yes.
Yes, so I think we're just on time. I think people want to get back to work, and we will consider doing part 2. Yeah.
I think we didn't really have enough chance to really
Yeah.
tease out how we
I
do
know.
support the kids. So let's do
That's
this
where
again.
maybe the academy will sell a bit of your course for you. They might get more in-depth knowledge. For us,
Well, the
personal-
best part about it now is that we can give a 70% discount. So that's
Oh,
really
okay.
valuable. Really
Yeah.
valuable. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. So I'm going to close the webinar right now. So thank you everyone for attending this talk and being a great and interactive audience as well. So we do hope that you enjoy this casual webinar series and do join us. We'll send out more notices of when we will be conducting further spotlight on specialist teachers. And thank you once again, all my colleagues here today. Veena, thank you for presenting, and Shilpa and Anu for your sharing. Deborah for always being with me, being my host, and Rebecca, welcome. Thank you everyone, have a good day.
Thank you everyone.
Thank you all so much.